Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Today I'm going to have a look around for buds and spikes, so sort of things to come down the line. In some cases quite a way down the line, but we got starting here because this one's got spikes. I forget which one this is. I think this is the Katrin Zoc. Yes, Oncidium Katrin Zoc Miki. And this is part of the Oncidium Alliance series, the two plants that we've got to grow in the house, which they're doing. And I'm going to rewrite that because that is all floppy and will not go back in the pot. Right, so what we've got here is a new growth here with a spike both sides. I'm not going to be able to say how many blooms will be on that at the moment because the spike's still quite young. And then round this side is another spike. So we've got 3 spikes on that to come. The other one that's part of the Oncidium Alliance series, the new growth hasn't matured yet, and there's no sign of a spike on that one, but we've got 3 spikes on this one, so that's a good start. Coming in here, nothing there, apart from the Bella. Now I cut 2 buds off of that yesterday that had gone brown. We still have an awful lot of buds, but this time of year they just don't seem to mature. But as long as it keeps pushing out spikes, you know, we've got time to wait. But it's very reluctant to bloom the buds. Now I don't know whether there's something wrong in the pot that's stopping those buds maturing. I don't know. I mean, it's growing in moss. It's not been in that moss too long. Some of it's live moss, but the buds don't want to work at the moment. So this whole section here, there's actually nothing. Absolutely nothing. This is the other vigorous one. This is Tahitian Dancer. Quite a few new growths on here, but they're not showing signs of their spikes yet. They will do soon. I mean, that's got a fair bit of Sotoanum in it, so you know, in theory, at least two spikes per new growth. But it's a whole set of new growths on there. It's just a matter of them getting to the point where they start pushing their spikes out. Nothing on the go here. But I mean, we're looking at quite a few spring blooming dendrobiums here, so nothing there. The large purple flowered Vanda still hasn't got a spike this year. We're in August now. Now that's unusual. It bloomed twice last year. Maybe that took all its energy out. But if you remember, we did cut the bottom of the plant off with the basket, so it lost an amount of its root system. It's certainly replaced it. It's grown an awful lot of roots this year, including quite a few new ones from the base higher up. So the idea of taking the bottom off did work, but maybe that just put a stall on it and, you know, inhibited the spike. This is all spring blooming stuff up here, apart from, let's get this one out of the way. This one's still here. It's still going in a box to go back, but that'll be at the end of the weekend. But this one, which was bought with it, I believe, or around the same time anyway, is Dendrobium hook summit or other. Hookeriana. I'll get there in a minute. The buds on here are pushing on quite nicely now. And there's quite a few of them, so we should get a nice little show on this, bearing in mind it's a new plant. I wasn't sure whether it would even bloom this year, but there's quite a few spikes, so we'll get blooms on that. I don't know how long, because it'll be its first time blooming for me, and I don't know how large the blooms are, because that determines how much growing the buds have got to do before they're going to actually open. You know, if they're tiny little flowers, then they might open soon. If they're quite large, it's still got a lot of growing to do. Right, so that's that. The other side of there, oh, we actually got, would you believe, Hercoglossoms managed to throw out a few blooms. It does that most years. It blooms, does its mass production of blooms, and then a bit later on it just pushes out a couple. And there's some more down here actually. There's another cluster of buds down there. So it's just having a little flurry. It's obviously not its mass blooming or anywhere near it, but it's nice to just, you know, have that touch of colour again and delicacy. Love those blooms. There's nothing else going on up there, even though there should be. So I'm looking at you up in the corner there, that flipping monster up in the corner that just won't bloom, even though it's an amazing plant. So I'm just putting things back at the moment in case I decide not to water it here today, which I haven't decided yet. So that's up there. Coming down through here, we've got this is Miltonia Summer Glory. This has got 3 spikes coming on. This is going to, certainly this one is going to be open soon. There's another spike up the back there and a smaller one there. So that growth there has got 2 spikes. This one here has only got 1. Yeah, it's only got 1. Nothing else in that section. I've got this strange thing here that is a spike, badly distorted, don't know what's going on, and the plant has no tag in it. So I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's going to do. But I'm hoping it'll at least push 1 bloom out so that I can find out what the hell it is. Because at the moment I haven't got a clue. It's one of those that, you know, lost all its... In that, I did a massive repot and all the tags got muddled up, so I just decided not to put them back in the pots and we'll wait, sort of thing. And we're waiting. Yeah. I will mention my Renantheras because they're not doing well. Difficult to say why. I mean, this one has lost it had a set of lower leaves, a gap, and the upper leaves. It's lost all the lower leaves and one of these. So it's now got a set of leaves up here. It is growing. Where's the bad one? This is the one that's crossed with the Vanda that I think is going to die. This is the one that lost, it got rot in the crown. Not me, that was there when I got it. But it's not doing anything. And it did have a growth coming out the side, in between those 2 roots, that's just stopped. But right down in the pot are some little green shoots. So maybe it's going to grow from the base and completely start again, which means it's donkey's years off ever blooming. I'm quite disappointed with that actually, because that's from a seller I've relied on over the years and have not been disappointed, but that was not a good plant. It didn't show that much. When I first got it and I unwrapped it, I was reasonably pleased. But, you know, on reflection, it had got crown in the rot that, you know, I didn't see initially, that then developed and actually lost the crown. Leaves are going, and it's just not very good. So, leave that. There's nothing else under there that's budding. Now, up the top here, we've got Hibiki. It's got its first set of buds on the new plant, which are opening. So that's its first cluster. And I'm hoping this is going to grow substantially, because my previous Hibiki, the canes on it were at least half as long again, if not nearly twice as long. And although this has dozens of new growths, they're nowhere near the size they should be. So I'm hoping that these growths are going to, you know, I mean, there's one out the side here that seems to be pushing on, but the canes are short at the moment. It gets fed, because with that number of new growths, it's going to take some feeding, so it does get fed regularly. Right, I can't get at a lot of stuff. Well, I'm not getting plants out, it's only ones I can get at. Up in there, you can see a good sheath on that Cattleya growth there. That will bloom down the line. That's the angel heart, so very large, flashy Cattleya blooms there. I've just started watering my holy clay pot, so I thought as this one's down, this is just a Cattleya hybrid. It's got no ID. It was got at the Welsh show last year. And the new growths all have sheaths. This is the most advanced, so this will bloom first. These 2 are almost identical, so they'll follow on. And then a smaller growth up this end has only just even started showing its sheath. That one might not bloom. but it should do. There's no reason why any of these shouldn't bloom. It's done an extensive root system. It's a strong grower. For a plant that big to have pushed out 4 new growths is pretty good going, and that's without cutting any rhizomes. So we should get a good show from that later down the line. That's down there ready to water. Let's have a look at the rest of the Cattleyas up here. This one over here has got new growths but hasn't reached the sheath stage. My Laelia anceps started its spikes, or that one has. I can't see the other one, it's buried in amongst the leaves, but if one has, the other one will be just behind it. I can just see through there. Yes, it's just starting. These grow at a hell of a pace, so this plant I shall have to watch, because it'll have to come down from this shelf soon to go lower. Otherwise it'll touch the roof and that distorts the buds. So we've got Laelia anceps spikes underway. Laelia purpurata hasn't reached the sheath stage yet. That's still pushing on its growths. So's that one. So's that one. So there's nothing else in bud over here at the moment, or down there. I'm quite looking forward to that Rossio glossum, the Rawdon Jester, with 4 stonking new growths on it that are pushing on nicely now. And although it's in that media that I don't like because it holds water so much, I'm having to water that quite frequently. It's using it up. Trying to push up 4 growths that size, it's using the water. So I need to keep up with that one. I keep ignoring it because I keep thinking of the media it's in. I don't need to bother, but this time I do. So that's that. Coming around here, I don't think we've got anything reaching sheath stage yet. Is that a bifoliate? No, it's not. So that's got sheaths. The growth out that side has just started its sheath. It hasn't even fully developed its leaf yet. But this growth over here has got its leaf and its sheath. So that will bloom. You have to go careful when you're looking at Cattleyas, because if they're bifoliates, the second leaf often pushes out a bit later than the first one, and it disguises itself very cleverly as a sheath and then turns into a leaf and disappoints you. No, I love it when they do that. One of my little mini phalaenopsis that's mounted. Plant don't look too good, but it is actually excuse me, producing a spike. So we will get some. Those are pretty little blooms on that one. So we'll get some blooms on there down the line. Not too far away because they're not big blooms, so you know the buds don't have a lot of growing to do before they show. There's nothing on there. Nothing else on there, I don't think. Nope. All the things like the twinkles, the late flowering oncidium types, they're not showing their spikes yet. They're busy pushing on the growths. Obviously the Miltonia regnellii has got a lot of buds to open. Looks like this one's going to open soon. They seem to have quite large gaps. You know, this bloom's been open a while now. I forget when we first looked at it, but the next bud on that spike is not open yet. So these are going to be phased over quite a long period, which might mean by the time we get to the last few opening, the first ones are going over. But as I haven't had it long, I don't know that. There's another bud coming up on this Masdevallia. I think we've finally finished off the slugs. Although there's still some slug damage on a couple of the blooms, there hasn't been any more. So I think I've got them now. There were 2 hiding away, and they were hiding under the pot. So that was nice of them, wasn't it? Nothing else here, I don't think. And up here, I at the moment have not one single Tolumnia spike, not one. You'll be pleased to hear I'm going to get brave. The Tolumnias have started to show scale again, and they can do serious damage to the fans on the Tolumnias because they eat away at the base and they collapse basically. So last time I had scale bad on the Tolumnias, I wasn't using a systemic, I was just using a soapy wash thing that wasn't doing it. It wasn't doing the job. And I ended up unmounting them all and giving them a good clean off, and I think out of the 15 I had, 4 or 5 got thrown away because they were too far gone, so it's that bad. So I need to get at these, and I think I'm going to give the old bleach treatment a go, because a lot of my cattleyas have got scale around the base, and they're starting to climb up the plants now and get on the leaves, which means they're expanding their territory. I'll see if I can show some. They congregate mainly around the base. If you look down through there, you can see some. You can see some there. You can see a lot there. See, that's quite bad. And they're getting up onto the leaves. So I think I'm going to try Ed's bleach treatment, but I've got to think this through, because I don't want, because these are in clay pots, yeah, they're getting on the new growths and everything now, so I'll probably do this today. But what I don't want is the bark soaking up all the bleach and then not rinsing off very well, because that could in theory damage the roots. Ed keeps saying don't worry, nothing will get damaged, but I need to be cautious. What I plan on doing is watering the holy clay pots today, so that the bark is full of water and feed, and there isn't much room to soak up any bleach. So the bleach will become a wash rather than soaking up into the plant, which I'd rather not do. So I'm just a little bit of preventative medicine. That'll give them a nice stonking dose of feed as well. Now what I'm hoping to do is use the Vanda bucket that's already got water in it. I'll take that water out because it's RO water and refill it with just tap water. Make sure it's a reasonable temperature and everything, because it's just for a soak. And then put the RO water back in there to use to rinse them off. So that's my plan. This is a big enough thing to get whole plants in, and the idea is to do the whole plant. You know, actually turn the pot upside down, give the plant a soak for a while, leave it in there soaking, give it a swoosh around and all that, and then turn it up the other way and put the pot in. Now I know that on some of the cattleyas the bark's going to float out, and I'm prepared to accept that on the grounds I'll top them up with new stuff. Yeah, I mean ideally with scale you should repot, because they do live in the media as well, but with a bleach soak, in theory, if there's any in the media, they're dead as well, whereas with a spray that might not be true. So I'm going to give it a go. All that's going to get done at the moment are a couple of oddities. The Tolumnias are going to get done because I don't want to lose any more, and all of the cattleyas are going to get done whether they've got scale or not, on the grounds that they're all touching, they're all in close proximity. So even though I may not have seen any scale on a particular plant, there's probably some in there getting ready to fire off. And the other thing I'm going to do is some of my mounts up here, the older ones, so that's things like the Anosmum, the Nestor, and some others. I watered them yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? Day before. Heavily watered them, not a sprayer, but a proper water, so they were very wet. And I put them to drip, because this lot up here are the last lot to be done always. And I didn't come in and hang them up very quickly. They got left there for a while. And when I came back in to hang them back up, I found 5 of those little snails. And that's why my roots are getting chewed off on some of those. They've got snails hiding in behind, you know, the moss on the mount that are nibbling at roots. And I don't know for a fact whether it's going to work, but I'm going to dunk those mounts in the bleach as well, hoping that the bleach will take out the snails. It may or may not work, but you know, if Ed says it can't do the plant any harm, then it can't do the plant any harm. So either whacks the snails or it doesn't, but it can't do any harm. That's the theory anyway. So yeah, we're going to give the bleach a go. I'm nervous about it. I just, you know, it sounds an incredibly odd thing to do, but you know, given what you normally use bleach for, but it kills stuff, you know, at the end of the day. So selected plants, all the Tolumnias, all the holy clay pots with cattleyas, and even my cattleyas on mounts, if you look at some of these, I mean, this strictly speaking isn't my plant, this is one of the sold ones. But I bet if I look carefully I can find a scale on there. Actually, I can't. I can't. Oh well, perhaps not then. But anyway, anything that's suspect. This little dendrobium here is a couple of the seedlings that I had. And you can see the damage on the leaves. And there's a scale. There's another one under that leaf, and if you look very carefully at the base of the plant you can see them. So that one will get done. So some selected plants, but not everything. And we'll see how we go. I've got so few mealybugs this year that they're hardly worth mentioning, and that is weird. Because if you think last year I had an awful lot. I mean, this Hercoglossum, that's always got mealybugs bad on it, especially where the new growths are. Well, we haven't got them this year, they're clean. Yeah, so the mealybugs are in very short supply at the moment, there's not a sign of them. Anyway, where did we get to? There's another Cattleya species, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to get through to there. This one here is Genmanii. That's the new growth sticking up the top, and the sheath is showing on that. If I get the camera around there, you can see it. I can just see it on the screen. So that's going to bloom. I mean, I'm hoping to get an extra bloom on there this time round. That one's got scale at the base. I know it has. I saw it last time. So that'll get done. And coming round here, twinkles, not yet. Sometime soon. Up here we've got spring dendrobiums, so not there. Tolumnias as and when growths start to mature. And a lot of these are in growth mode at the moment. They are pushing up new fans, so that's good. Again, many spring dendrobiums. Recently mounted split up oncidiums. They're not going to bloom, and if they try they'll get stopped because they're too small. Yeah, I need them to get a bit stronger, but they're starting to go. New roots starting to go. Twinkle type. Yeah, so that's what's coming on. You need to push a bloom out soon because you've been sat there doing green stuff for an awful long time now. That's the Bulbophyllum Elizabethan Buckleberry. It's a strong, well, it's not a plant, it's several, but strong, healthy plants, strong new growths. It's about time you pushed a flipping bloom out. The Sotoanums are starting to look as though they're picking up. The new growths are pushing on a bit stronger. Because that was in a bad way, that plant, a serious bad way. So, oh, would you believe it? There's a spike on there. Now, next time I get that out to water it, I'll have to have a look at the pseudobulb and see if I can let that bloom. If it's only got one spike on a plant that big, I can let it go. But that will do. That's as much as I would allow it to do. So there we go. We've got a few things to come. Yeah, and I've still got some worrying things in here. I mean, I'm lucky that this lot down here, there's no scale anywhere there. I'm a little worried about this pollinated Miltoniopsis because this looks a bit floppy, and I'd have thought that would have gone stiff as a seed pod. But not knowing anything about it, I just don't know. The plants, the bloom obviously got pollinated because it collapsed. But whether it's actually going to form a seed pod or not remains to be seen. You sometimes get the pollination actually takes place, but it can fail to form a seed pod. And then it can form a seed pod and still not have viable seeds. So there's a lot can go wrong with this process. But it just doesn't look very strong. It looks very floppy. Still, we'll see what happens. All I can do is leave it and see. Oof. So there we go. That's what's on the go at the moment, and things to come. Oh, I've missed some. We forgot the potentially virused Miltonia, Queen Anne. That spike's pushing on. I mean, this plant is not a happy plant, far from it. You know, it's got leaves that don't look so good, but then it did push out quite a few new growths, you know. So maybe we've just got residual. I mean, this was badly infected with Fusarium. It was treated. It's been treated again since, but it might be one of those that just the Fusarium just will not die, and it keeps coming back. And although it's not coming back in its full strength, it's there good enough to actually stop things growing properly. So that's still on hold. And the other one that came from the same place is Castanier, and I think that's got spikes as well. So I suspect we'll have one at each end. One at each end. There's the other one. It grows in two directions basically, so it's weird actually this time round, because it normally grows its lead in both directions and they bloom and then it produces its new growth. Well, this time the new growth's heading off way in advance of normal, because you know it hasn't even bloomed yet. So well, it's doing well. Be nice if it pushed one out in the middle, wouldn't it? You know, because I mean it's off the mount now basically. You know, a lot of the roots are aerial, you know, which is it's going to fail eventually. You know, if I don't do something with it, it can't survive with just aerial roots, although it's got a good root system in the moss. So at the moment it's doing okay, but this is probably the last year where it can stay on the mount, and at which point, you know, it'll have to come off the mount. The two pieces with the you know, that have extended away from the mount, because it is a bit of a climber in that sense if it was in a pot, they can both be taken off and probably just put back on a bigger mount, much closer together. They can stay together, they don't need to go separate, although I might do them on two mounts, I don't know. Anyway, so we've got blooms to come on that. Blooms on that one are very similar to this. I think one of the Castanier is a natural hybrid, occurs in the wild. I forget which two it is, but I'm pretty sure one of the species in there is also one of these, but not absolutely sure. There aren't hundreds of Miltonias species, there's not a huge number. Right, so that's it for today. Things to come. Oh, I missed that one, didn't I? Oh, no, I didn't. No, I've already said that. Sorry, I just saw that huge sheath there, but that's the sheath that didn't bloom on the purpurata. You know, one did and one didn't. That's the one that didn't. And it's staying, you know, it hasn't gone all brown and shriveled up yet. But it's not going to bloom. It's not going to play tricks and suddenly bloom late or anything like that. It had its chance and it missed it. So, yeah. Right, so that's what's going on. Now I'm going to get on with the rest of this watering. It's still quite early in the day at the moment. It's not even 10 o'clock yet. Get on with the rest of this watering, and then just get my head round doing this bleach treatment stuff. I don't want to start it and not finish it, if you know what I mean. I want to start it and finish it. So I want to. If I get my watering done today, then tomorrow, because it's not a job I need to concentrate on that much like I do with watering. So that with watering I have to concentrate, or I drop things, or bump things and snap things. Whereas doing a couple of plants in a bucket at a time, you know, upside down, put the plant in, come back in 10 minutes, give it a slosh round, turn them up the other way and put the pots in, and then put those to one side. I think I might end up having to have a tap water wash, so that I can wash the bleach off quickly, because by the time I've done all the plants and I get to put back the RO water, some of those plants will have been sat in that bleach waiting to be rinsed a very long time. So I'll probably end up having to rinse them with tap water first, then put them to one side as rinsed, and then give them a final rinse in the RO water. So they'll have had a double rinse and will have washed the tap water off. And that sets them up ready to be, you know, come back into the normal cycle. And we'll see how we go. So, all good fun, isn't it? Oh, my poor old Vanda's just starting to go. But it's been out a while. It's done okay. I don't know whether there's another spike showing yet. I doubt it. No. So we'll lose that one soon. Once they start to go, they drop pretty quick. It's almost consistent. You know, if you look, you've got one going here that's obvious, but there's some up here as well. So once they start, they're off. Come in one morning and half of them are on the floor. But it's been out some time. It's a good splash of colour for a while. And then we'll wait for some more to come. So, right, that'll do for today. And I'm thinking about doing another field trip quite quickly. There's a couple of places I've got in mind where hopefully I can also combine butterflies and some orchids. But one of the ones I've got in mind is a butterfly site. It's on one of the butterfly web pages that I view as one of their, you know, specific sites with specific species to go and see. But it's basically a chalk wood on chalk downland, so it's going to have orchids there as well, and it'll have downland butterflies lower down, apart from the woodland bit that I was thinking of going to. So that could be a place where I could combine everything in a day, and it's not too far away, near Winchester, so we could try that. And I've got another site in mind that's totally unknown, absolute unknown, but it's in an area where there are some quite famous places for both orchids and butterflies, and it's just a part of that area that I've never been to, and I've never seen anything written about them either. Literally one of them, I won't tell you, I'll wait to film it because it'll frighten the life out of you. But anyway, so I may well try and squeeze one in, and if I'm going to do it, it needs to be this week. So what's tomorrow? Thursday. Thursday's Q's and A's, and also the bleach treatment, so it's going to be Friday, isn't it? I'm not going at a weekend. I'm not doing those sort of visits at a weekend. There's too many people about. So right, I'll see what I can do, but if I leave it too much longer it won't be worth doing it, if you see what I mean, because everything will be over. So I'll see how that pans out, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. Oh, I forgot about this. I thought I'd better do this. You're not going to like this. We have potential for a virus here. Yeah, we've discussed it. We've got colour break. Doesn't show. We've got a bloom here without any, but you know, we've also got some that are quite bad, and the plant itself is not happy. But then these are straggly looking plants anyway. So I've also got another opinion that basically says some of these bifoliate Cattleya species are very sensitive to anything that's wrong, and that'll include systemics, wrong pH, and they'll respond badly to anything that's not right. Now this has had fungicide treatment. It will have had systemic bug treatment farther back as well to try and deal with the scale, I'm sure. So that's had that. I don't think the pH would have gone out of range at all, so that's probably okay. But we're all admiring these blooms, and you would really be admiring the fragrance if you could. There's no colour break on those, but look at the plant. It's dropping leaves left, right and centre. And if you look at what's going to drop, these two, and now this growth, and the growth with the blooms are the ones I knocked the leaves off of. That's going to have no leaves left soon. Now it is going to grow a new growth from here soon, but what I wanted to say is, where do you think that plant came from? Came from exactly the same place as that one. Food for thought. But it's also a bifoliate Cattleya species, sensitive to all sorts of weird and wonderful things. So what's wrong with that one could be the same as what's wrong with this one, only this one isn't quite so badly affected on the leaf front. This one suffered on the blooms front. I don't think there is anything wrong with these blooms. I think they're okay. Apart from the fact they're going to go over soon. They don't last long, do they? But yeah, the plant's really bad. I mean, these leaves have been on their way for some time. These were leaves that were there when I got it. And they've always been damaged and discoloured, but they've had some green on them. They've lost their green now, so these are now useless leaves. They don't photosynthesize. Nor does that one. That one's shriveled. That's going to leave it with no leaves. So I'm not quite sure what to do with that. But yeah, so in theory, whatever the problem is the same problem with both of those. They have similarities in their culture and conditions, and possibly their sensitivity to getting stuff shoved inside them that they object to. So we shall see. And the other thing I forgot to say, it's been suggested on many occasions that I ought to get some virus test kits. And I've always said that the cost of the test kits it doesn't justify the cost of the plant, if you see what I mean. I mean, I don't normally pay a lot for my plants. They're not valuable in monetary terms. I do have some with sentimental value, as they say, which you can't really put a price on. But the cost of the test kits is, as far as I'm concerned, extortionate for what they actually are. It's just a flipping chemical in a little polythene bag. You know, it's not a big deal. But I looked into it. There's only two, as far as I can see, there's only two manufacturers, one of which is an American company, but it has agents in various places around the world, including one in Europe, which I did contact a while ago to get a price, and I had difficulty. The communication was not good. But my good friend Peter White, Orchid Accessories, still has the test kit on his website. He hasn't got any stock, but it means he knows where to get them and has the necessary contact. So I think I'm going to contact him. You can either get them as a set of 5, which is very, very expensive for what you're getting, or you can get them as a set of 25, which works out less than half the price of the set of 5s per unit. You know, if I got 25, it might be a bit of fun to go round some of the suspect plants and find out definitely. And a lot of people would be interested in actually seeing one. Although, I mean, Danny's done virus test kits and shown how they work and shown how the results come up and everything. So the videos are out there if you want them. You don't have to stay with me and wait for me to do it. There are some, you know, that have already been done. It's the beauty of YouTube. If you need to find out how to do something, there'll be a YouTube video to tell you. And same with the test kits. And those would be probably the same test kits that I would have access to. But I'm going to contact Peter White and see if he can get a set of 25 to make it more monetarily viable per test, if you see what I mean. I don't need any more than that. You know, there's plants in here that have no real value at all. They're just common old garden stuff out of garden centres, and it would be easily replaced. But you always have the possibility, even one of those, if it did actually have a virus, then it could be passing it on to others. I certainly can't afford to test everything in here. I can't afford to do that. I know some people have forked out and done that. At some point when their collection was not so big, they tested everything and got rid of everything that tested positive. So at that point, they're almost 100% confident their collection is clean. And then they religiously test every new plant that comes in to stop anything ever getting in again. Chance of something just arriving in the air or anything like that is so slim as to be negligible, quite honestly. You know, the Cymbidium mosaic virus and the Oncidium ring spot virus could be in the air in the UK. Yeah, a bit dubious. It's more likely to come in on plants that are infected that you don't know about, and then you spread it around yourself. So I'm thinking about it. As I said, I would only test plants that look iffy. You know, anything that's growing well and always has done, not showing any signs of deterioration, then what's the point? But you could take something like this. I mean, I got this from Burnham's, reputable nursery. That doesn't mean to say that's not virused, just because it came from Burnham's. Yeah? Now, if it's part of their original stock, and they've done, because Sarah's quite got the equipment and everything, and does actually produce seeds sometimes, so there are seedlings produced at Burnham's and grown on to sell. Yeah, if it's one of those, it depends how far back the stock goes. But I read quite a few articles that imply the older the cultivar, the longer it's been in existence, the higher the risk of it being virused. That seems odd to me, because you'd think if it's been around that long, they'd have all died out. But apparently it gets carried forward. Whereas new cultivars, they've been produced in the modern sterile conditions, and in theory should be okay for a bit. Yeah? So newer hybrids that haven't been around long are apparently an awful lot safer as far as risk is concerned. I got no backup to that. That's just articles written by other people that I've read. You know, there's some logic there, I suppose. But anyway, I may be getting some test kits, and then things that either mean a bit to me, either because I've had them a long time and don't want to lose them, or because they were presents, or there are various reasons. We can knock some of them off with a test kit and see if they really are okay. And if they're okay but they still look iffy, then there's a cultural issue. It's that plane again. He's been hovering around the airport waiting for the camera to get picked up. Actually, that's not the same one. That's a bigger one, a bit higher up. The noisy one that comes around here is a trainer. You know, it's people having lessons at the airport. They just have an hour's lesson. That's a con as well. You pay for an hour's lesson. You'd be lucky to get half an hour in the air. Because by the time you check round the plane, because you have to do all that, they don't do that before you get there, you have to do it with the pilot, yeah. So you look round the plane, and he explains what you're checking and why, and then you go over the controls, and then you've got to get your clearance from the tower to go round to the taxi wait point, then you've got to wait, because if there's anybody landing, they come first, and, you know, it can be half an hour before you can get in the air. And then you've got to land and get back to the place where you park. You don't get an hour in the air or anything like it. Yeah. Right, I must get on. See you next time.